So we're going to talk about human emotion and how this relates to investing and our investing decisions. So we humans evolved from a time many years ago when it's completely different than today. So think of it like 10,000 years ago, we wouldn't have even lived until 40 years old. It would be very rare to live 40, 50, 60 years old. Mostly the average life expectancy was about 35 years old. So imagine that compared to today, where the average person is living to 75 years old, and when people born today, they're going to be living up to 100. So our brains haven't evolved to kind of live the lifestyle that we're living today. Essentially, what we're trying to do is to have an income that will pay for us for when we stop working. So what we're going to go through today is what we call the tri-brain model, which basically means that the brain is made up of 3 parts. So this is from the book called The Chimp Paradox, and many psychologists who are much smarter than I am have kind of come up with this idea as well. A book called The Entrepreneurial Revolution by Daniel Priestley also covers this 3-brain model. So what is a 3-brain model? Essentially, it says that the brain's made up of 3 parts. So reptile, the monkey mind, and then the kind of visionary, kind of the entrepreneurial brain. And it's essentially the way we've evolved. So we've evolved to let's go to the first part of the brain, which is the ancient part of the brain, which is the reptile brain. And this is the kind of the fight or flight or freeze. So if something goes off, if a fire alarm goes off now, a chemical called the amygdala, the part of the brain, will release a chemical which will basically mean that it will increase our heart rate and mean it will be easier for us to run away. And this kind of comes back to the days where you would be out in the woods and you'd see a bear and you'd get scared. That chemical would release and then you would run away. So this part of the brain is essentially to help us escape and survive. So it's still here today, but it doesn't realise that actually most of our day-to-day lives, we're not going to walk out and get eaten by a bear unless you live in like Canada or somewhere like that. So most day-to-day life we're pretty safe, but the brain has evolved from a time where we didn't realise this. So the reptile brain is very highly emotional and it sees the world as a dangerous place. So we need to understand this when investing. And this kind of really comes out when there's market crashes. So if the market crashes, this is where we all panic and people kind of get scared and run away from the market. This is very important. So once we know this, we're like, this is the part of the brain that's happening to me, and you can understand and kind of rationalise why this is happening. And the worst thing you can essentially do is to sell all your assets or your stocks in the downturn. Essentially, you're going to be selling at the bottom when that's not necessarily the best thing to do. So that's the first part of the brain, so the reptile brain. The second part of the brain is the monkey mind, and this is kind of the task element of the brain, where they're very good at kind of making us do things every day in kind of our habits and our kind of relationship forming. This is kind of comes out in very familiar situations, like in a 9-to-5 situation. You go up every morning, you get on a tube, you go do your work. This is essentially the monkey mind kicking in and kind of helping you do these kind of automated tasks. If you're driving and you don't remember kind of how you got there, that's kind of the automatic part of the brain kind of kicking in. And this is going to keep us safe, and it kind of keeps us efficient as well, so you don't have to use your brain all the time. This is the monkey mind. This is kind of the second part of the brain. And then the third part of the brain is kind of the visionary part of the brain, or the entrepreneurial part of the brain. This is kind of the vision, kind of where you want to be, kind of what would it be if the world was a better place. This is kind of the more evolved part of the brain, and it's evolved later on from our kind of evolutionary journey, so to speak. So it's kind of, strategic, kind of where we want to be, kind of what would be, how the world would be better. And this is where we talk about building a life plan for yourself, and this is where the kind of visionary part of your brain really can kind of come out, and you can put what you want and kind of your goals, your aims, your aspirations on this life plan, and then you can kind of work towards that, kind of ignoring the kind of monkey mind and the reptile mind. So just to summarise, this is how human emotion can affect our investment decision, and how the brain is kind of affected by different yeah, the brain can affect our investment decision. We might not necessarily know this. So just to summarise, we have the reptile, the kind of ancient brain, we have the monkey, kind of the familiar, kind of the task-oriented part of the brain, and then we have the kind of visionary or entrepreneurial part of the brain. And yeah, this is the tri-brain model, and it's really, really important when we're investing.